My first guest needs no introduction if you watch the Tampa Bay Rays on Sun Sports. Not only did he play with the New York Yankees, Pittsburgh Pirates, and Florida Marlins, but he even played for the Seibu Lions in Japan, where he was inducted into their Hall of Fame in 1994. But you'll still find him at the ballparks as a co-host of Rays Live pre- and post-game analysis, clutching his baseball, Julio. Some call him Orestes Destrade, but to me, he's my big friend, the Big O. Welcome, Big O.
You know it, Michael. MC, it's good to be here. My pleasure. Congratulations on the show, and I think it's a testament to your hard work, not only on the field but now off the field, and bringing a good product to the local people here.
Well, it's all a success because people the likes of yourself joining me to, clear the airways and try to feed the people with some information.
It's a lot going on.
Man. So the Baseball Players Union and the owners finally came to an agreement about how they want to kind of, get a season started due to COVID. It kind of stopped everything, all sports really.
Sure.
It's everything stopped in March, which was like at the height of spring training.
Right.
Now it's a 60-day game plan. How do you think that this is all going to plan out?
Well, Michael, initially this was one of the difficult sports to navigate through COVID because they were just starting. They were in the infancy of spring training. All of a sudden, boom, shut down. I will say that it took a little longer than expected because of the business of sports, but they're all going to take a lick. They're all going to take, a hit as most of America is, but they're back out there, and I've been out to the Trop, and everybody's very encouraged. And one of the things that I'm noticing, especially because of our team, we have so many young players. They're hungry to bring the product, to just say, America, here it is, and hopefully, Lord willing, there won't be too many hiccups to preclude that.
Well, we knew that it was going to be tragic to all sports when COVID shuts down NASCAR.
Right.
But of all sports, baseball, you're already social distancing on the field.
Right.
Do you feel like it will be easier for baseball to kind of come back opposed to the other sports who have probably, more numbers? They're in more proximity. It's a contact sport. Even basketball is more contact a little bit. Is it easier for baseball to come back?
That's a great point because no doubt in basketball you got to push. Soccer, your sport, you're getting hammered, especially in the trenches. So that is a great question. I think it will be, and they already have an example of that because both the Japanese league and the Korean leagues a month ago already restarted. They've had good success with how they've handled COVID, and they started up, and so far so good. They've had a handful of players that have gone down. And they've replaced them. And that's the system that MLB has in place now. You're going to have a 30-man roster to start, and you're going to have a 60-man, another 30 guys down in Port Charlotte. Every team's going to send to a local area their backups. So if one goes down, next man up.
Next man up. So this is going to affect all sports, and it's the fans in the stands. And some teams are used to not having fans.
Right. Yeah. We kind of social distance already. We've been doing that for a few years in the Trop. Not on TV, though.
Not on TV.
We got a great following.
How do you think that that's going to affect the players, if it's going to affect them at all, with possibly no fans being in the stands?
Here's an interesting thing, MC, about baseball. And you being, I know you played more than just football, but with football, ever since you were in high school, Friday Night Lights, packed, right? Packed. But you had your baseball friends, right? Right. We played at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We didn't have any fans. Right. We had the parents. Right. Unless you went to a mad big boy college, you went to a JC or no fans again. You're playing afternoon. Baseball has never been notoriously the elite nighttime sport, right? So you go into the minor leagues, very little fans. The one interesting thing about baseball is that we're accustomed to not playing fans. Football, I don't think so. I mean,
it's going to be really weird.
It's going to be dramatic. I hope that at least they give them a quarter of a state. Let's say at 80,000, they give them 20 and spread them out.
I was saying simulated noise.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. We grew up, with Cheers and Friends and I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
That's all made up laughter anyway whenever they make a joke. I was telling that to my brother recently. I go, somebody hits it has to work because we're going to have to play like that for a minute. And then I'm hoping that hopefully by the playoffs, there's some scenario that some fandom can be allowed in. And when you speak of playoffs, I'm expecting the Rays to be in it.
Speaking of scenarios, so when I played with the New York Giants, it was the year of the lockout. We had a veteran team, so we were able to navigate those waters. We end up winning a Super Bowl the next year. Do you think that the shortened season can affect certain teams in a positive way or a negative way? Is it going to be an even playing field across the Major League Baseball?
One of the things, and the different seasons and knowing crossover friends and athletes, baseball is notoriously a marathon. I mean, it is 8 months of spring training until 8 months if you make it to the playoffs and you're playing in October, 7 months if not. But it's 162 games. 30 spring training games. By the time you're done, you've played 200 games, right? You're beat, man. And that's where the injuries come. It's not from that you're banging into people. It's just the everyday grind. So this is no marathon. This is a sprint, a full-on sprint. You lose 10 games in a row, you're done in this one. You can't do that. So I think that it's going to help certain teams. A team like San Diego, I was studying the other day, they can be very sneaky. A team like the Mets, I mean, these teams would not be in contention and considered. The Mets could be sneaky. Toronto could be sneaky. Again, I think that the ones to really, truly consider are New York, are the Rays. Teams like Washington is strong again. But there's that little, tweener. Atlanta is not really a tweener, but they're a team that could just ride you. And I think the key is youth, staying healthy, both injuries and COVID, but it's youth. It's interesting. The gumption right now. It's the ones that are really playing the game almost as a kid. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. Because you get the veterans and they're like, this sucks. This sucks. And this game at that level, Michael, you let up a little bit and you don't think you're letting up.
You can't make up for it.
They got you.
Yep.
And the ball gets by you or the guy intercepts it and you're like, what the heck happened? I didn't make that step.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us. And I know that the fans appreciate you letting go of Mr. Julio.
Julio right here, man, came to visit. And yes, I said yes to the Michael Clayton show. And I tell you what, where am I? Over here. I really definitely want to say, man, because the community is so important. And I know you are, and I am, as far as being so thankful about being blessed. But these are the type of shows that can do and bring people together. Not only bring good news, good tidings, and promote, but also support. You know it, brother. My pleasure.
We're back with Orestes Destrade. Thank you for joining us. Listen, we're at a time in our country where, a lot of things are going on. COVID, protests, and the world seems to be divided and at the same time united in certain situations. Sure. Sports has always played as that mediator to kind of bring people together. And I know in football with kneeling and the protests, that has been a subject of the past. How do you feel baseball has played in a role of kind of uniting the community during these tough times?
Well, baseball has an incredible history because of Jackie Robinson. So they were a precursor to a lot of the civil rights accomplishments that the great Martin Luther King Jr. was able to accomplish, even after his death or put forth. JFK, RFK, you got to, that's our lineage, and Jackie started that. So I'm thankful to Jackie immensely, but also to the Brooklyn Dodgers for taking that chance. So it's all about taking chances, and I think baseball has gone that way. The Negro Leagues, obviously, they were just had a beautiful documentary on ESPN about them recently. So, I mean, I'm really tied to the history of it. Being a dark-skinned Hispanic, a double minority in the game of baseball, I understand and have talked and respect my elders, Orestes Minoso and Tony Perez, and these guys that came up in the 50s and the 60s that for a minute, were really, there was racial tensions. Not as bad as there is now, so we're thankful of it. As far as, for example, the football with the kneeling, man, I'm all for it. I'm a big push supporter of our police force because they do so much and it's such a delicate job. Yeah. I just had a thought, though, and I wanted to run it by you because, you know, the kneeling I believe in. In fact, I believe in awareness type of things, whatever it is, wearing pins and stuff like that. But what about it, MC, if like they had a situation before the anthem where they give anybody at a stadium, a venue, a theater, wherever they're going to play the anthem at, the fans and the players, an opportunity to take a moment of national awareness. So you do whatever you want at that moment, whether you want to put your hand up or you want to do a peace sign or you want to kneel for 30 or 45 or a minute, and then they go, thank you, and then you go to the anthem. So now you're not crossing over to it.
I think that is a tremendous idea. You know, when I was asked the question about the kneeling, you know, everybody has a different perspective. You know, who I am at heart, I don't mix the two. I would not have been a person who would have kneeled, though I understand and I support.
Why and what
all right, but that just wouldn't have been me if I played. I grew up in Louisiana. I know that the powers that be. I grew up, you know, navigating the world and not ruffling feathers, and I want to keep my job. You know what I mean? And that was just my reality, and I believe that that's how I would have handled it. At the same time, I always believed that if the NFL had put together a unified protest where everyone on the team has an opportunity, because you're not individualized. Now it's the whole league, it's everybody. Now the message does not have a chance to be mismanaged.
Mismanaged.
All right,
that's it.
And you know,
and that's what happened with that message.
Right, and that's what happened with that message. And because it's such a serious message, I think that it's lasted the test of time. We are finally understanding. Drew Brees comes out. He made the comments. He's always stood behind the military. He will not disrespect the military. But he said the world has changed now, and we're not accepting that anymore. And he apologized, and he said, I have to listen. So we're in that state where now people are really understanding why the protest took place. But I do agree with you, a unified time where everybody can buy in, those who want to, would have been a more appropriate way to handle it. And there's still time.
There's plenty of time. There's plenty of time to correct, you know, certain things, even with the police force that we're realizing that needs correcting. Maybe some, you know, reaccreditation, you know, for those difficult times that they're in, that they don't handle it well. Because I don't believe at all it's racism. I just think they have a gun and they're trying to protect, you know, not get killed.
It's many different situations. It's many different situations or scenarios that you can come up with, and I agree with you about protecting our police officers. Unfortunately, I was in a predicament where I had an officer illegally enter the house of my foster care transitional home, where I had young African American kids and Caucasian kids living within the home, but it was only the black kids who were mistreated, taken out of the house, put in the back of a car, and they didn't release them until I showed up. Because I love the life of officers, a person like me, if I made that a big deal when that happened,
it would have gone.
It would have gone everywhere. So I wanted to handle it in-house, you know, and that leads me to my question, like, how should leaders carry themselves when they have the moment to speak? How valuable is that to make sure that we take care of both sides, because we need our police officers and we need them to be safe as well.
I live my life as a tricultural person, mixed in with my baseball life, which, you know, took 17 years of my young adult and into my adult, as a Cuban, as an American, and as Japanese, believe it or not. So all of them kind of intertwined in how I think. One of the ways, you just hit it. Leadership, Michael, has its levels of cautiousness that you can't be a leader in the locker room and you come in after the game, the guy made a bunch of errors and you're just, we gotta have a meeting. You, and you guys sucked, and this is why that's debilitating. That's chaotic and that's confusing. The message is chaotic and confusing. That's what we're living right now. We're living amongst chaotic and confusing messages instead of data and respect. And you know, and then you take somebody aside or you take a situation aside. That's the baseball, that's the professional in me of knowing how locker room, how we keep ourselves in check. Right. Because if I had a manager, which I had them, that were rough like that, I didn't respond very well. But I had some great leaders that taught me, Dave Winfield and Ricky Henderson, and people that then I went to Japan. I became the Dave Winfield and the Ricky Henderson, and now, you know, the people respect.
To keep it simple, what's the first word you think of All right, one word to explain what the country needs to heal. In one word.
Um, wow. I would say understanding.
Understanding.
Understanding. Because understanding encapsulates the only way you can understand something. Again, I go back to my baseball roots. When I struggled, I had to step back and understand what I was doing. So I needed to go to the opposite field because I'm trying to hit home runs instead of going back to get a base hit. I just told that to my dad with my elderly mom. He's 90, he's on point, and but he goes, man, she's had some rough days. And I go, Dad, we just need some singles right now with Mom. You can't expect her to figure out the whole world right now because she's got dementia. Right. All right, and I pop in and we got help. Understand what we're dealing with, MC, because if you don't, then then of course there's a myriad of other words and compassion and hope and faith. But understand and take a step back that everybody is trying here, man. There's a great. One of my favorite young singers right now is Jason Derulo, and on my drive back to my folks, I was listening to his cuts, and I forgot about this song that I think he put out 2 or 3 years ago, and it's called Colors. Get a chance, listen to it, and it's about I don't know if the kid he does now because of what we've been in like 3 months, but the words are so resonant of the times and what's going on. It's almost like a fun little. Almost like a soccer song, like this fun song, but it really is talking about the colors and support your colors, but we're all on the same team. We're all the same team.
Right. Without a doubt.
And that's the deal.
And I'm glad you said understanding because last year I was in a situation where I was at a Fellowship of Christian Athletes retreat where we have pastors and men of faith of all different races. And we're sitting at a table. And the conversation was, why don't, Michael, can you help me understand? Because I was one of the few black men in the room. Right. And the question was, Michael, can you help us understand why is it so tough for black people to kind of just get up and, go get success right now? And I said, it's, just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And my thing was, well, you don't understand. You don't understand that what black people went through 400 years ago still has an impact today. Sure. And if you're not willing to understand and look at the psychological impact of how that affects our communities today, you'll never understand what people of color go through. And I think that it was definitely, understanding is definitely a key.
And even just the last 50 years, which are closer to us, the unfortunate, cruel racial segregation. You got to go on a different bus. Get in the back of the bus. You can't go into this. What other players used to tell me. I'm sure you ran into black football players and what they went through and how they had to eat at different places. That's real a lot. Man, put it this way: the kids now, they get to go to big boy colleges. Those guys had to go to Bethune-Cookman and Grambling and FAMU So it's here. We can do it.
Being a voice in the community, we need our voices to speak out. A quick message to, the audience, young people, well-seasoned community members here as well. What's on the height of your heart? What would you say to people to kind of heal us in this time of kind of turmoil and tragedy?
I do turn to sports, and you said it earlier about, and that's why the Olympics, which has been around for hundreds of years, is such an incredible event because it brings worlds together. It brings cultures together. It brings religions together. And then all of a sudden, Islamic are playing with Jews and you're playing soccer and time stops and wars stop. Most of the time, there's been some places. But I believe that, hopefully some of these sports will start getting going. I want to tell them to have faith and to have patience. It's so hard. They're so hard because we never experienced anything like this. I know it's hard for me because I'm out of whack right now that my body should be doing baseball games and having later nights and doing all this stuff. But it's a period of time and we can get over it and to have the faith and understanding that a lot of leaders are on point right now. Yes. There's some chaos and confusion going on and some people not doing the right things or not sending the right messages, but there's a lot. and search for that. Search for that truth, just like other people search for, and they should, for the spirituality of truth and that comfort. Search for real truth of people that are saying logical, and I believe, man, baseball's about numbers. It's one of the more numbers game. So I'm a data guy. Yeah. Believe in the data, follow that. And then lastly, it's the simplest thing, other than understanding, let's be good to each other. Man, it's not that hard.
Just that easy, huh?
It's not that hard. Let somebody through in the line.
Man, let them over in traffic.
In traffic.
You got to practice. You got to practice those things, man. So, one last question. You know, you've lived in Japan. You know all about their culture. They're battling, or they haven't battled coronavirus like we have. We've had it bad. Yeah. And I think it's due to their culture. You can speak to how they're doing so well over there.
MC, I mean, their culture is one of the reasons that I think that they did so well. They did their homework. I mean, they're right next to China, but they did their homework and they listen very well. And when you talk about a country that as a whole, if they're told, remember, this country survived not one, but 2 cities being bombed by us, unfortunately, need be in World War II. So they listen, and I've seen it myself. The funniest thing I got to tell you that really kind of explains why they survived COVID and why they're online without having to close down dramatically. Yes. So I do clinics over there, and every time I do clinics over here with 40 kids, I always still, to this day, okay, let's make a line over here. Okay, Johnny, can you, let's get a line. This is one line. Japan, I go, usually, kudasai, onegaishimasu. Boom. They're like a line. I see one kid. Yeah, they're like, hi, wakarimashita. And I'm like, man. So they are very much about protocol and about their country. Not saying that we're not. It's just that I think we're a little ADHD over here, and they hone it in, and they bow instead of hug anyway.
Their social distancing is
and they drink a lot of tea, and they're wonderful people, and I consider myself part Japanese from my time over there.
Give me something in Japanese to the camera.
はい、私はオレデスラエ選手です。本当に気をつけてね、コロナウイルスね、本当に大変でしょう。でも、私は応援してください。ありがとうございます。どうも。
All right, give me something in Spanish.
Para los fanáticos aquí en Tampa Bay, para todos nuestros cubanos en Tampa Bay, que lo quiero mucho, los fanáticos, por favor, escuchen y miren el show de Michael Clayton, que está nuevito, está fabuloso. Sigue a Michael y sigue a Tampa Bay. Go Rays, ándale.
Go Rays, baby.